Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle show. Yeah.
Hey everyone, before we begin this week's episode of the Matthew and Rizzle Show, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proof of Beauty. Proof of Beauty is an experimental digital experience studio. The blockchain is their canvas and the tokens are their brush. You can learn more about Proof of Beauty by checking out pob.studio. You can follow them on Twitter as well at PRRF Beauty. That's PRRF Beauty on Twitter and pob.studio on their homepage to learn more about their projects like Hash, London, and Publico. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Welcome again. Serious injuries may occur.
Thank you, recording lady. Cool. Well, George Terence, welcome to the Matthew and Rizzle Show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Cool. And I think it was last October that both of you were on the whip talking about Olta. So really excited to get some updates today. But before we get into Olta and the latest and greatest there, would really like to hear for our audience a little bit of an introduction, a potted history for both of yourselves, like what you were both doing before crypto, how you found crypto. I'm sure you're going to talk a little bit about Cent in there, and then how Olta came to be.
Okay, I'll start. My name is Terence Riley, and I started it was about 2 years ago, I think, posting on Cent, and just like exploring what interactive art might look like. Then I think me and George, we were working together already on another project, and it was like the Cora project, like the AOR project we were working on. And then I asked George, what do you think of doing selling websites basically as NFTs? And because we were both in that field and already doing like interactive work, we thought, yeah, why not? And got friendly with you guys actually through Cent, and I think with Cameron as well a bit. And then so my background is I've a 3D animator background. I've done it for 20 years. I've worked in lots of like VFX movies and animated movies. Then got new into like interactive artwork, like caught a love for it, and then started I suppose working with George. Yeah. That's my brief intro.
Hey, I'm George. I started off doing like an art degree, trying to be an artist, building robots to draw, building robots to do weird performances, things like that. And then through that, learning how to code, and then becoming a web developer, and then meeting Terence and working on a few projects. And then sort of like, the two worlds collide, and I'm able to start making an art platform for like interactive art made with code. That's that's kind of like how it all started.
So y'all are like one of these projects that's sort of seen, a few cycles now, and has been around for a long time. Curious to just hear your trajectory and how Olta sort of started out and how you would describe it present day.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Well, it started off as an experiment, right? Might all seem like that even today, but no, we started an experiment going how can we approach selling artworks as code, and we have been very careful to I suppose to really do a good job, we're in it for the long term. We're artist founders, so we care very much about it. We're not building something we just want to make a short-term gain, or we want the quality to be high. And I think our focus is on just building really cool features that like kind of push the space forward to attract the high quality type of work. And the features itself, we're like thinking of the collectors having more choice and control, as well as the artists having more control. And yeah, what do you think of?
Yeah, I mean, our trajectory has been heads down, trying to build something, and sort of like we've done a few sales of NFTs, and we've got some amazing work up there from some artists, but then recently have sort of like pivoted towards Polygon and trying to do editions and doing other things that kind of make more sense for this type of art rather than a one-of-one, and just like learning those things as we go. And sort of right now we're kind of in that building stage, but nearing a time where we can pop our heads up again and say, look, we built this, but then everything else is sort of crashing around us. But I think it's a good thing. we're in like building mode still.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, obviously being artists, like learning things like the basic stuff, like growing a business and trying to get investment and like pitching and all this stuff. So not like there's a lot more to it, and that's why it's hard to you get everything done when you've got limited resources and limited time. We just want to put the best foot forward. However, when we're starting to take the approach now to involve the community more and step it out to involve people more, we're going to launch hopefully soon, in a couple of weeks, in a sort of a soft launch, and then keep iterating on top of that, and then keep involving people more and more. So that's the plan.
So until now, like what has been the hardest part of building out this project? I know there's definitely been a lot of challenges, but if you had to pick one that was the hardest or the most unforeseen when you initially started out, like what would that actually be?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones is like, how decentralized do we need to go, and like, does every single thing need to be decentralized or not? That's kind of a big issue, but I think we're fine with that. Like storage, where to store these files, how they're displayed everywhere, so not just on our platform but on everything else. There's all these little unforeseen things, and then smart contract development. That's like a thing, and keeping up with the standards and keeping up with everything, because the space moves so fast. Like we've built stuff and then gone, oh, let's release it, and then realized that these are things that should be in there.
Yeah,
because of the nature of smart contracts and not being able to update them as easily as it should be, it kind of becomes quite.
Yeah, like I suppose the thing that we're trying to do is we're building on top of Sora smart contracts, and we're extending them to like suit like artworks that are changing, dynamically changing. So there's a lot of complexity there with smart contracts and other APIs, and just to try and get that all working. Yeah, it's a challenge.
I mean, yeah. But it's like things are being built around us as we're building, which is amazing, because it's like problems get solved while I'm thinking about something else. I'm like, oh, cool, that's done.
Yeah,
like that's happened a bunch of times.
Actually, yeah. Sometimes you wonder, like, you just hold on a year and then.
Yeah. So with the launch coming up, and I guess like current day, like who would you say like is your like target demographic, or who you like see like really appreciating what you're delivering the most?
Yeah, like we see it as obviously programmers, technically minded people, even gamers, like people like this will get our product like off the bat. Like they'll maybe understand what the coders, what it takes to make this type of art, and they might respect the artists who are coders that make it, right? And so far, all the collectors so far are all basically engineers and programmers. So we'd hope to attract a new type of collector into the space eventually.
Yeah, I think and I guess bringing the vision for the future is like a scientific community to kind of bridge that gap with the arts as well. Programming and code has a lot. It's the medium of that sort of stuff, so you can make amazing looking things that are from an experiment, or listen to sort of like NASA's API and make something visually amazing with that. I think that would be an exciting new audience to kind of.
I suppose the other thing is we want to extend it because we're actually we've been talking to OX splits, and we're going to extend it into people that are outside the programming aspect too by incorporating teams. So we're excited about bringing in like other industries like music industry, even like 3D printing or something, animation industry, stuff like that. So yeah, that's it.
So on some like very basic level, and dude, I'm like a huge fan of like this entire direction. It's one of the things I love about like generative art, that like, this is stuff that like can't otherwise be done like without like certain tools of technology that y'all are implementing or whatever. Is that how you would describe it if someone was just like, one liner, like what is Olta? Is it sort of like a tool for creators? Is it more of like a platform? Like what would be like the bare bones description?
It's both actually. Yeah. it's a marketplace platform with features that we're developing for them specifically to help make it easier for them to create and sell this type of interactive art.
Awesome.
Yeah, we go with the tagline at the moment, dynamic NFTs, and that's really what we're leaning into, is that NFTs that can change and are generative, and
So this is something like the tools that you're essentially like providing people with. This is sort of like a unique experience to Olta, similar to some of these other platforms that are out there that like sort of have their own like thing you can do on them. Like, if I'm understanding this correctly, like, what I can do on Olta sounds like stuff that I could not do elsewhere.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think we open it out more.
Okay.
Than say other platforms. So we're not saying you have to build it with a certain library or you have to store it on a certain place or like it has to be solely on chain or it has to be not. Like we're just kind of like opening out art that kind of is built with code to make sort of, and then using this NFT approach to make that possible, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Would you say that like Olta is sort of positioning itself to be like an art blocks for dynamic art specifically?
Yeah, well, we're definitely focusing in on interactive art, So there's generative art, there's interactive art, and there's other types, but like definitely a focus on that. So we're not going to be selling videos and images. We've never discussed that. But yeah, we're trying to extend. Well, there is differences obviously, but yeah, in general, it's that focus.
Yeah, it is that. And I guess like a more playful approach. Less. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's kind of where we're aiming for.
So I know you said in terms of like, you know, who you think would be most interested in using your platform, so I am interested in all of those categories that you discussed, but I have very little skills in the way of like coding and that kind of thing. Do I need more like at least like an entry level of like how to navigate some of these things, or can you just be like a musician or an artist and like, you know, sort of pick up some of these tools and tinker around with them?
Well, we did definitely need a more code literate person to create the artwork initially, right? But
Gotcha.
as we streamline the process, we'll be able to help a little bit more, like by giving like boilerplates and just maybe. But then we also like want to do collaborations, so we're going to have so we see that as a great way for people who don't know the code, who want to team up and create an interesting interactive project together. So like we sort of foresee like we could reach out to like producers and studios, or like in the future, or just writers, you know, anybody who wants to form a piece of work. Yeah. And we want to make it easy for them to be able to do that.
Like learning from the animation industry, really. It's like some of these works are very complex and take a lot of time, and sometimes need to be a team effort. Like no one can know all of this stuff and potentially make great art. So it's like we need people to come together to make these things.
Yeah, so there will be the individual, obviously, and there's a couple of duo teams that are working together really nicely. But we love the idea of collaborative artworks anyway, and like the skill to be able to do all these different parts well is really difficult as a one-person team. So
I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it'd be great to have you guys come in and like work on a project.
It would be. That's what I was going to say. Like, I feel like in some ways, I kind of like that there is like a barrier to entry in terms of like you need some knowledge of coding, because and at the same time, and that keeps me out. But I kind of like that because I feel like you appreciate people who, you know, have the skill sets in order to create on platforms like that, you know, and that's one of the things, you know, I love. I know Matt referenced art blocks. You know, I had a project on art blocks, and I know it requires like someone who knows what they're doing, and it wasn't me. I had to find somebody, and a lot of those are like really complex. So I get it, and I like that barrier to entry, and at the same time, I like, you know, the idea of streamlining that process. So, you know, obviously anyone can get in the game and play around, and you know, extending it to like larger projects is cool. No, the whole thing is cool. And so do you have like I hate asking like the roadmap question, but is there like, you know, past this launch in a few weeks, like once you set this into orbit, is it like, you know, just sort of out there and people can do something with it? Or is it like a sort of a staged rollout, or like a long-term thing that this is just the start of?
Yeah, I think it's a stage rollout. Basically, like Editions will be at its first sort of beta level. It'll be usable, and we'll keep improving on it. We'll take the community feedback. And then we have started this other feature, which once Editions is working and, you know, started to make some traction, we'll finish that feature. And that, I suppose, it extends what we really want to do is just give lots of control, more control to the artists and to the collectors with every feature we develop. But in between that, then there's lots of things like, as I said, like the royalty splits will be finalized and onboarding streamlined. There's lots to do basically before we get to that alls feature. But yeah, the roadmap, I suppose, is Editions, focus on that, do it well, and then alls, and then maybe sometime next year we have this really big love of doing a multiplayer NFT feature, but we're going to need more resources. So,
totally.
Yeah, that's really our roadmap.
And then, like, if there's obviously so many projects out there and so many different types of collectors, participants in this space. your project is definitely positioning itself as a very specific, like, focus on the interactive dynamic NFTs. If you were to kind of like snipe a couple projects out there and like say that, hey, anyone that is a fan of A, B, or C project will definitely be a fan of what we're doing at Olta. Just to kind of like start pricking up the ears of collectors a little bit more if they haven't already like gotten the hint. Like, what are those projects that you think are more aligned with what Olta is doing, and what collector bases are you actually really trying to focus on to kind of convert into Olta fans and collectors?
Definitely, like say FX Hash and Art Blocks, as well as Feral File, and even Async Art is like the top 4 collectors. Yeah, that's the key.
Good.
Obviously,
My ears are pricked.
Yeah.
Did you say you guys are on Polygon, or you mentioned Polygon? But what's the blockchain situation?
So the editions thing will launch on Polygon initially. We've done stuff on Ethereum with Zora, but I think we're more inclined to just keep it on Polygon.
However, we're going to keep the one of ones on Ethereum because it just makes sense to keep that there. And then Polygon's definitely for our editions feature.
It lets us be a bit more playful and not worry so much about gas prices. So editions can be a low price and it not feel like you're still spending loads of money on them. But it's just, that's really the reason, gas prices.
Cool. No, I think we see more and more projects go with sort of like a hybrid approach. Not a judgment question, just like curious what the angle is that everyone's sort of tinkering around. Is there a curated list of artists like for the rollout, or is it like public, like anyone can hop on if they know what they're doing, or how does it work?
Well, our initial thoughts is to keep it curated, but try and make that like as easy as possible to curate, maybe through collaborative artworks. However, we do have plans to open it up, and we would like to. We feel like it's the right thing to do, right? Through decentralized fashion, have an open part and then have a curated part. So we're going to mix it up.
Yeah, I think it's just we'll get it right.
Yeah,
I get it. Like, be confident before we open it out, I think is the aim.
That's the approach we're going.
Yeah, but we want to do like jams and hackathons and things. There'll be all sorts of ways to get involved and be part of it, I think.
That'd be super exciting to have like artists reaching out to other people they know, right? Or in a jam session, and then the plan is to have a reward pot there for winning teams. And then additionally, we'll do hack days maybe where that is more leaning on the tech side, or when a feature is at an early stage. So
that's cool. And like those ideas to activate the community more and to help spread more awareness and get more people that are participating today to invite folks that aren't in the Olta ecosystem right now. Like, is there anything defined there that you can like drop dates, or like maybe something happening in August where people need to look out for, and just letting people know exactly when they can kind of come into the fold a little bit deeper? Curious about that.
Right now our focus is on trying to release this beta version of editions, and I'm afraid to say it. George, do you want to say it?
No.
We don't want to say the date, but we're thinking around mid-July, because basically we're going on holidays in August. But that's the very start, right? So, but besides that, like, it's going to take a bit of work onboarding the artists, getting them in, streamlining the process, and moving forward. But we don't have a date for anything else.
In terms of, I know you mentioned a bunch of projects out there that you sort of consider in the same vein as y'all. Are there any other projects out there that are like you've taken inspiration from, like, over the years? I mean, 2 years is like a lifetime in this space. Aside from those ones that you mentioned, like, who else is out here like doing things that you appreciate or have inspired y'all to build Olta?
Well, I think you're very inspired by Feral File.
Yeah, I like what Casey Rees is doing. Yeah, and like all the exhibitions on Feral File are really interesting, I think.
And I'm inspired by FX Hash because, like, I love that they do lots of like collaborative works, and they're involving collectors in the early stages of their work, and like it just seems like a real place that collect like art creative coders are supporting each other. They're like buying each other's artwork, supporting, and there's not as much as an over financialization aspect to it. You know, like they're buying it to hold the art, and maybe like I think there's an 80%, 20%, 80% buying and holding the art versus 20% selling, you know. So it's really nice. It's a nice vibe.
I think there's another Terra Zero as well. I mean, I've been following them for years. They first tried to make a forest, I don't know, autonomous forest, like sell itself and own itself. But they've been doing really interesting things with plants and NFTs. So random. Oh, that was cool. Caught my eye.
Looking up Terra Zero right now. What blockchain are they built on?
They've done stuff on Ethereum, I think. Their website is terrazero.org. I think they're mostly active on Twitter. Yeah, they're doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, but also like double click into FX Hash. I feel like it's sort of like what Hickett was to like more crypto art. FX Hash is definitely like the more approachable, affordable, playful version of art blocks on Tezos. Yeah. It's just like this, and it gives it very like an old school vibe where you can kind of go in and like if you want to collect something, you can collect like everything like in a go. It's a throwback to before the space blew up, like when you could go to Super Rare and everything was priced like $100 or less, and it was just like, oh my god, you can just collect everything. And as a collector, it's one of the most enjoyable things in the world. And then as an artist, like it doesn't matter what price point your work is collected from, especially when you're starting out. It's like the fact that people are paying money to collect it is like mind blowing. So
like for me, it's not the price. It's almost like just the fan. I like the idea of having a very pricing range, like low to high.
Yeah.
It'd be great to keep that.
Yeah. And especially as the market becomes a little bit more turbulent, you don't know which way it's going to go any given day. Having a fair price or soft price, whatever like your preferred vernacular is, it's really, really helpful to the overall kind of success, long-term success of a project. Because you have it softer in the beginning, there's really only room for it to grow, versus you have a more challenging price point, and then there's just so much pressure on maintaining the dreaded floor. And then all the energy goes to focus on the wrong thing instead of like good vibes and having a happy community. Then it's anyway.
I really want to create an NFT that like tells the collector what to do with it. So it like reads its own floor price and then tells it to sell and tells it what to buy.
Yeah.
Project.
Actually, that's the funny thing is like because they're dynamic, we want to create like where the artists are evil. Or because one of the artists, AJ, he's always thinking about ways to trick the collectors.
Yeah, his stuff is amazing.
Yeah,
cool. And then one of the things Rizzle and I, we love to do at the end of the show is we like to get very invasive and personal and shake down our guests' crypto wallets to see what they've been collecting on the side. So I know you already mentioned like FX Hash and a couple other projects and async art for sure that I know you've probably been collecting from. But like, what are some of your favorite pieces that you've been collecting over the past couple of years since you started building out Olta?
Good question. I'm just having a look now. No, to be honest, like being brutally honest, we've been putting all our money into our own project.
We've all been there.
That's really bad. But I love Illuvium project, and I have collected stuff. I just can't think of it right now.
Yours all?
Oh, I collected some stuff on Feral File, actually. What's his name? But I've put it all in my nano stick, so I can't access it.
Yeah, I'm such a lurker. I haven't collected anything, which is awful. Now we're getting asked it. We need to start a collection.
Yes,
this can be the start.
There's still hope, George. We'll save you.
Yeah. We'll do something.
So make sure everybody knows where to find all the things, any specific dates that people need to know, Twitter handles, wherever the best place is to like learn and, find out about what y'all are up to.
Well, I suppose the main website, right? So Olta.Art. Twitter is Olta.Art as well. That's really it. And Discord, we have a Discord. It's the links on their Twitter as well. And I suppose that's really it. Yeah, very efficient.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, and obviously dates, guys. Like we're aiming for the middle of the month this month, and it's gonna be beta. It's gonna be early. It may not look pretty, but the artwork's gonna be good.
Awesome.
There we go. Yeah. Cool. Well, George, Terence, thank you both for jumping on the Matthew Rizzle show with us, talking about Olta and the upcoming plans you have with it. It's been a pleasure, man, and hope both of you just keep on building.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Rizzle. Yeah, cheers.
Thanks, y'all.
We'll see you around.
Take care, y'all.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this week's episode. Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proof of Beauty. Proof of Beauty is an experimental digital experience studio. The blockchain is their canvas and the tokens are their brush. You can learn more about Proof of Beauty by checking out pob.studio. You can follow them on Twitter as well at PRRF Beauty. That's PRRF Beauty on Twitter and pob.studio on their homepage to learn more about their projects like Hash, London, and Publico. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.